good evening, and welcome to another episode of Moen After Dark with me, your host Moen, my co-host, the man Dennis Dodd Fears, Immaculate. How you
The
doing
one and
tonight,
only.
Immaculate?
Good, man. Good. Having a fun night tonight so far. How are you?
Well, hanging in there, getting over this cold. Cincinnati won yesterday. Um, good day,
Is
good
coffee
day.
good?
Coffee's fantastic. I
Mm,
I like the latte myself.
nice. All right.
Um, let's go ahead and say hello to some people here. Daniel Gygax was here first. He asked me if I broke the internet. Nope, I just had to roll some drivers back. Windows update, screw you. Glenn Lumen, good morning from the Philippines. My son is getting married today. Glenn's a member.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that, Glenn. Congratulations to your son and your family as well. Hayden's dad got that volume down on my Jags to listen to you guys. Hey, go Jaguars. Lay the wood to those Ravens. Jim F's here. Howdy. Howdy, Jim F. BR7062 is here. Hello, BR.
Nice.
And everybody's coming in here. Mr. Monkey says with the monkey emotes. Orangutans or apes. It's a nice night for a national championship. There you go.
Texas fan, huh?
Yeah. And Nathan Campbell. Hi, guys. Sean Ski. Hi from Tennessee.
Tennessee Cougar.
Moen, you do look like the girl at my local coffee place. God forbid you go into that local coffee place. Because I got a 5 o'clock shadow on right now. But the way today's world works. Let's start off with some conference realignment. I came up with this theory, and I want to put it out there, the Blackjack theory of conference realignment. Do you think a 21-team Big Ten or SEC could work?
Do I?
Three 7-team divisions, top 3 seeds in a conference playoff, with the 4th seed being the wild card.
So do you think, like, is in terms of divisions like that, like in the future sometime, they'll be able to do that? And just for now, you make it until you have those rules? Or because
No, I think if you go to
they're limited to 2 right now.
Right. If you go to 21,
Mm-hmm.
21 teams,
Mm-hmm.
you can go to 3 divisions.
Is that in the rules?
You're making the rules at this point.
Gotcha. Like in the future, they're going to be able to make their own rules and the autonomy,
yes.
and so you're just planning for it. Okay, that's fine. Yep, perfectly viable. So you'd have like a postseason playoff in the conference, and you'd have like a wild card.
Yes.
I mean, it's as viable as any other theory, any that I've put out there. So you're saying you're going to 21 sooner rather than later.
I'm saying you're going to 21 in your next expansion move.
Oof. Well, I mean, I think they're going to end up having to come up with a solution of how they order things depending upon who ends up going where. So if things line up that they have to do that, then it's viable.
I am saying in the next expansion move, the Big Ten could take Florida State,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't like Clemson, but I'm just telling you.
Most people would agree with you.
I was looking at the Nielsen media. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of time today, guys, to put this together. But I was looking at media bleed through and brand value as it goes from state to state. And believe it or not, Clemson, Columbia, South Carolina bleeds a lot into Georgia, bleeds a lot into North Carolina, bleeds a little bit into the eastern part of Tennessee, where Clemson is the most popular teams in some of those regions. And the media bleeds over into it as well. So that's my point of view for Clemson. Now, obviously, you're going to go to 24 at some point. But if those 3 are available out there for the Big Ten, I think that you have to take those 3.
Well, I definitely don't think that Florida State and Clemson alone would be stomachable by some of the
Yeah,
folks in the Big Ten. So what you're doing is you're throwing in Georgia Tech into that, so that way Clemson is palatable. And I mean, those are the three picks. I wouldn't put Miami over any of those three. I'd put North Carolina in as a 2 if I thought that they could make it. I don't think the Big Ten's interested in taking 2 from Virginia or North Carolina. So it's feasible. It just comes down to who you know and what you know, and if they'd be willing to take Clemson along with that in a 3 package.
yeah, it would definitely be Clemson would be paying for Georgia Tech, um, but Georgia Tech would be carrying it for Clemson, carrying the water for Clemson, and we should probably talk a little bit about that. Um, Georgia Tech is a Big Ten school in everything but conference alignment.
Yeah.
High academics, high research, uh, small class size, smaller acceptance rate than most schools. But Georgia Tech, I know it doesn't turn a lot of people on from a football standpoint, but Georgia Tech won a national championship in the 1990s. That's a lot more recent than some of these other schools that are moving through realignment right now. So, Oregon's never won a national championship in football.
Yeah, and the Big Ten doesn't need every school to come in and light it up. I mean, there was Maryland, there was Rutgers.
Yeah.
It's everything that those were. It's a market ad, high grade school, big academics, big research. In Atlanta, which is the Rome of the South. So I think that there's a lot of potential there, and people are only seeing what is the actual there now, and not really looking at the potential.
Yeah. And you said it perfectly, a market ad. The market bleed through from Atlanta is
All over the South.
gigantic.
Yep.
Gigantic. Parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, and Florida all bleed from the Atlanta market. It is massive. It's definitely not an ad that you're going to sex it up or anything. You're not going to see Georgia Tech come in and start competing for national titles or even conference titles. But it's a nice travel ad. The Atlanta airport's right there. Easy travel for a lot of people.
Especially when you're going to be a coast to coast conference.
Yeah.
Getting into Atlanta, a lot easier than getting into small town South Carolina.
And think of this division: Penn State, Rutgers, Maryland, Clemson, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Northwestern. Why am I adding Northwestern?
One of these things. What?
One of these things is not like the other. Northwestern is Chicago. Mm-hmm. So again, it's an easy travel partner for all those schools. Everywhere that you have direct flights to Chicago. Just for sake of keeping everybody having 7 teams in their division, that's what I foresee making the most sense. Everybody west of the Mississippi would be in their own division. So Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota would be in a division with the 4 West Coast teams.
You could throw everyone a curveball and throw Purdue in there. Have yourself a little Purdue GT action.
Yeah, that could work too. Purdue's pretty close to Chicago also. I don't hate that idea, but I want that to be a protected rivalry. I do want that to be a protected rivalry. But also looking at those media negotiations and the media bleed, what else I was able to see was Kansas actually becomes a lot more attractive candidate with media bleed than I had previously thought.
Chat's going to hate you right now.
I know Kansas Jayhawks fans are going to love me and everybody else is going to hate me for saying it. But looking at it, the Kansas City market that it brings bleeds into Missouri. You get bleed into Oklahoma. Kansas is actually a dark horse candidate for expansion. I never thought I would say that I would put Kansas in there, but when the Big Ten gets to 24,
yeah, I mean, I was actually just on a show earlier, and that's one of the things I mentioned is the Big 12 probably does need to at least think about the fact that in the next stage they might lose one or two schools.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely Kansas is going to be the top target, regardless of who does it. It's the biggest brand in the Big 12.
And it's at that stage, it's likely geographic ads meant to go into divisions, which is exactly what you're doing, and is exactly what they'd have to do. So, I actually think that like an Oklahoma
I think
State
if
or
you
West
go to that
Virginia or
20,
something like that.
yeah, if you go to that 21 and 24 is your logical next step. You pick up Kansas, you pick up Notre Dame, you pick up a school in Texas.
If Notre Dame's not doing the thing that I think they're doing, yeah. But they're prepared to go in either direction.
Right.
Notre Dame is kind of, they want to have both options available to them. So if you can get them, that's a no-brainer. But I'd probably put them in my East then. And so you now you're going to 3 divisions of 8 though. So you might have to.
I would probably do 4 divisions of 6.
How are you going to do the East? You got your 3 in the North and your 3 in the South already. How does Notre Dame fit into that? They're going to want the East.
You can give them the East. You could just rework it. I mean, at that point, if Notre Dame's willing to join, you could give them the East.
Who'd you pull out of the East? Penn State, Rutgers, Maryland?
Probably whoever that Purdue or Northwestern was. You would just slide Notre Dame.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. Wasn't thinking about them because wasn't prepared for the Illinois or the Indiana school on the East Coast. But yeah, that would be Notre Dame's spot then.
Yeah. So it could be interesting if things play out that way. Love to hear what everybody in chat has to say. Let's see. Why not 7? Well, I was talking more of 3 divisions within a conference, not necessarily in a league. Florida State, no, the 3 I was talking about to get to 21 was Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Clemson, the available ACC schools that are out there. Again, Georgia Tech is not a sexy pick. I get it. She's the ugly girl at the prom, but you know, her dad owns the local Corvette dealership. Yeah, interleague play. Mr. Monkey said yawn. Drank. You probably have alcohol poisoning by now if you drank every time I said Georgia Tech there. Yeah, the old triple option offense. That was
he's right too. That they're probably at the bottom of the list that the SEC would want to take.
Yeah. They were a former SEC school, so
they were, but Georgia already covers that for them. There's just the only gain there is to block the Big Ten. That's it.
Yeah, nobody's denying that Georgia's a much bigger brand in Georgia than Georgia Tech. Yeah. But Georgia Tech still has a part of the Atlanta media market.
And it's if they're not an ACC school and they become a Big Ten school, you could argue that they're going to be put on a little bit more of a pedestal.
Yeah, and you got lots of Big Ten alumni in the Atlanta metro area.
Yeah, that 55K stadium will get full.
Yeah, rapidly growing area, just like the Carolinas. Nope, no. Again, they wouldn't be number 1.
It's a big city.
It's a big city, though. It's
the
number 7 media market right now, I believe. It's number 7, but they have it projected to go up in the next 20 years to be top 4.
Yeah, they got plenty of room for growth.
So it's huge in terms of growth. I lived in Atlanta. I never heard Clemson and rarely heard Georgia Tech. That is definitely Bulldog country. It is right now. That's right. Kansas is huge in KC and into Chicago and St. Louis. Yeah, I was really shocked when I looked at Kansas, going through and looking at the media bleed and the brand bleed, how far Kansas really extended its reach beyond its own state borders. It was actually really impressive. I thought it was.
Really we got quite a few Kansas folks down here in Arizona.
Yeah.
So.
Won't they rather have Miami than Georgia Tech? If you've got one Florida school, that's all you need. You
And
don't need two.
they don't want a half-empty NFL stadium on the broadcast. Like you think you might get viewership with Miami, but I don't know if it's that great. And then you have kind of a boring broadcast. I mean, I watched that Louisville game and it was sad.
Yeah, Florida State's a hair away from AAU status as well. If they were to join the Big Ten, I'm sure that they would get AAU status within a year or two at the most.
Probably.
Clemson needs a lot of work. Clemson does need a lot of work.
Yeah, they're a pure football brand ad. That's why my worry is that so their football goes downhill. Then what do you have? Yeah, I mean, at least with Georgia Tech, they could suck in football forever, and it's still a good addition for the Big Ten.
Yeah, you got to have winners and losers, guys. So you need somebody to lose to these teams like Ohio State and Clemson and Florida State.
But you want your losers to add something else.
Yes.
Besides that,
Georgia Tech adds that in spades. Their research budget from engineering alone is gigantic.
And engineering research in the past hasn't been looked at as highly, but I think the future that we're going into, that's going to change to some degree. I don't know if it'll ever pass medical research as the number one looked at, but I think the money in engineering research is going to be going up in the future, especially with space travel and everything is going to be going on with that. So not to mention infrastructure improvements that we need to do all across the country. And there's just a lot of money that's going to be going into that in the future, I think.
Yeah. Defense tech too. Don't forget the defense industry.
The semiconductors is starting to take off. Ohio State got into that, I do believe, as well.
Shonsky brings up a great point. Kansas is never leaving the Big 12. It's the best basketball conference out there. It would drop football to save their basketball program. This is about more than just athletics. For Kansas, it's a huge upgrade to get into a conference like the Big Ten for their academics, for their research, for all their athletic endeavors. And it's not the worst basketball conference in the world. It's not on the level of a Big 12, but
And I get why a lot of Big 12 people are not going to want to hear anything like that, because it's the flagship for Big 12 basketball. And maybe they do want to stay. Maybe they don't want to go anywhere. I don't know. I mean, we don't know what Yormark's plan, and we don't know what they got up their sleeve. So maybe it's not on the target. But just in terms of in the past, we know that the Big Ten looked at them and vetted them, and there were some discussions before another path was taken.
Daniel Gygax says Kansas City is a pro city. It's Chiefs, it's Royals. I would have agreed with you until I saw the Nielsen media research. Kansas actually draws a lot of viewers within the Kansas City media metro area. It's actually surprising. Guys, I was surprised. I would never have thought it, but Kansas proved me wrong. Nathan Campbell brings up they could lose Oklahoma State to the SEC. That's a possibility. I don't think it's very likely. I think the SEC is going to stand at 20. I think they're going to get both the Carolina schools and both the Virginia schools. And they're both going to end up taking, I think you mentioned this, Immaculate, they're both going to have to take half pay.
Yeah. We were talking about that. And
do that.
People say, well, how does that happen? Well, if they're the ones saying that we have to go together, they're the ones that are going to have to take the pay cut for that. You say you need them to come with you. Okay, well, you're going to take some kind of pay cut, whether it's half or you're getting 2/3. But I think that all four of those go to the SEC, but it won't be at a full pay until the next deal that they write.
Kyle Visser wants to know, are we playing the Georgia Tech drinking game tonight? If we were, you'd be dead. Not alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, no alcohol for Georgia Tech anymore. That
we're gonna do a drinking show. We will do a drinking show, guys. I promise. I've got my 50 caliber shot glasses here. I will get a bottle of Crown Royal, which is my favorite, and we will do some shots. Steven coming in here with a who day, and I'll come back with a nobody. KC, yeah. Yeah, it's actually surprising. Oh, let's try and get some member comments here. Isn't it the same with Pitt playing in an NFL stadium? That's true. That's one of the things that's going
And
to be held against it for big
for the Big
membership.
Ten, I don't think that the Big 12 cares as much. Not that they're not going to look at that and say, "Oh, this is great." But the Big Ten, kind of the tradition is that you are on campus. It brings attention to the campus. That's why they do the BTA. It's kind of all about bringing money and everything into the university. So having their games off campus at an NFL stadium kind of runs counter to what the Big Ten wants to do. Now, how the Big 12 would feel about it, or the ACC, or anyone else, I'm not sure. They may not care at all.
Grand Dan makes some great points here. Georgia Tech and UVA fit the big, but would they really want to align with so much northern travel? FSU had their chance to join the SEC circa 92, but chose to be a big fish in a small pond. I think with Georgia Tech and Atlanta, you're actually reducing travel because of the the Atlanta airport. You got
Yeah,
direct flights going all over from Atlanta.
I don't think Virginia is as southern as people think anymore.
Yeah.
You got the bleed in from DC. Much of Northern Virginia is not really southern. It's more federal, is what I would call it. A lot of federal money that goes out quite a ways from there. So, do I think that they would mind doing all that travel? Not at all. If anything, they might prefer it. Hate to say it, but sad but true. Georgia Tech, man, they're in Alabama, or they're in Atlanta. They could get to places very quickly and easily.
Mike Smith coming in here with the block. You
There
dirty
it
dog,
is.
big guys. Stop even thinking about looking at Big 12 schools. You got
I
enough
know.
to look at with the pack
Terrible.
in the ACC. I'm putting it out there. I put it into my little nerd computer today, and that popped up, and I was surprised. Anything is possible after the last few years. I would never say never. Yeah, Kansas was actually mentioned a couple times as a Big Ten candidate. There was a push at one point to add Kansas and Missouri as Big Ten expansion candidates, and that ultimately ended up going to Rutgers and Maryland.
Yep, and after all that happened, I still had Kansas and Oklahoma as the two that would go to the Big Ten if the Big 12 got deparceled, pulled apart. So they were being looked at.
Tony Lawshin besmirched the Badgers. Big Ten has plenty of bad football schools. Will the big media partners pay for Georgia Tech? My guess is they will pay for FSU and Clemson. And you touched on this earlier, Immaculate. That's going to be the get. The get is the guys who actually vote want Georgia Tech in order to take a Clemson.
It tends to become a compromise. I know everyone thinks the media companies are just ruling this whole thing, and I'm not to say that they aren't influential. I mean, we've had Bob on here talking about it himself, and yeah, they're extremely influential. But in the end, the presidents have to make the vote, and they have to answer for a lot more than just what football money they're bringing in. And when you're talking about a conference like the Big Ten, you are indeed talking about the Big Ten Academic Alliance and what all that brings into everybody. And so when you were to compare a Georgia Tech versus a Clemson in that regard, and since you're already getting Florida State as the media darling pick for the networks to say yes, I don't see them handing the media to and nothing for themselves. So it becomes a compromise between media and the conference. And in my opinion, the better compromise is FSU and Georgia Tech.
Mr. Monkey says the two best markets for college sports are Kansas City and Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte, I understand Charlotte because you've got Duke, Wake Forest, North Carolina, all in that close proximity. But Kansas City, I guess you've got Missouri and Kansas in there. You're going to be your two biggest college brands.
Kansas State
Wichita
is also in Kansas City. Kansas State would be there.
Okay.
Probably get some Nebraska. probably get some bleed down from Iowa State. Because Iowa doesn't really have like a major city. Kansas City is a massive hub in the Midwest. Like all the major interstates come through there. There's a north south and a east west. So it you get a lot of corporations that are in there. So it draws in a lot. You're going to get a lot of people from the Midwest there.
Yeah, I remember reading in a book at one point about the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidentally,
Oh,
that
yeah.
Kansas City was one of the most powerful mafia families in the country simply because of all the distribution that went through Kansas City.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff to steal.
A lot of things fall off trucks and get there.
Yeah. Oops. Where'd that go? I don't know.
Big 12 tournament is in Kansas City and it's there for a while despite what Wild Ute hopes for. Well, Wild Ute's still going to push that Las Vegas thing.
Man, he might
Nathan
get
Campbell
it eventually.
says Virginia Tech to the Big 12. Unfortunately, I think Virginia and Virginia Tech are handcuffed.
Yeah.
So if you're taking one, you're taking both. And I don't think the SEC is going to willingly give up UVA.
I mean, the wild story, since we're taken from the Big 12 to tell them something that they might get that would blow their minds. If I'm right, I don't see Clemson with a home in the SEC and the Big 10. I could see them leading the way to the Big 12. And, if you do get a Clemson, you do get a Miami, you get a Louisville, you get a Pitt. Like, that's a serious quad. You're not staying at 31.7, especially after that Western quad that you got. That's a serious upgrade when you add Arizona State, Utah, Colorado, with the numbers that we saw Colorado getting, and that for now they're still going to keep getting. You add in Clemson, Louisville, Pitt, one more, whether that's Miami or someone else. I think that you're getting the pay grade if that happens, and people are going to say, "Oh, that's crazy talk. Clemson wouldn't do that." What choice did they have? Like, if those other schools are leaving, are they going to stay and hold the ACC together themselves, or are they going to go to the Big 12, where they're going to have more competition? And honestly, coming in, they're the favorite coming in, is probably what most people would say.
Mike Smith brings up a great point. North Carolina really growing. Lots of hillbillies move there, but they are a growing state with others migrating there as well. I've brought this up on the show previously. I have a great friend, an Ohio State alumni, who moved to UNC Chapel Hill area for work. So he's definitely got a point there. Lots of Big Ten snowbirds down there as well.
Lots of financial money is coming into there.
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte's turned into a financial hub, and it's a lot of people are going there because they're getting away from the larger city, but it still has all the amenities of a large city. If that makes sense, it's one of those cities, kind of like how Nashville was. Charlotte is that now, and doesn't get talked about a whole lot, but there's a lot of money coming in there.
Shonsky, remember, guys, all these schools are in grant of rights. Now you're talking breaking 2 grant of rights. I'm actually not. What I'm talking about is Kansas leaving after the end of the next grant of rights with the Big 12. That would be a move for when the Big 10 gets to 24 teams, which would be around 2029, 2030, 2031, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
The Blackjack analogy is for right now, if they could take 3 schools and go to 21 and pull off this crazy 7-team division with playoffs, that's a 10th conference game. That's what I'm talking about now. And that involves all ACC schools. FSU goes to the Big Ten or the SEC, they will be humbled, just as Texas is going to be when they get to the SEC. And those schools will tell them to shut up and sit down when they start whining. I disagree with this entirely. I think Florida State would do very well in the Big Ten. I think Texas is going to do well in the SEC. What do you think?
FSU, I think just the opposite. They might come in and that's a talented team. I'm not so sure about their coaching, but I think that's a talented team that could run with anyone. They just needed a little bit more coaching and a little bit of luck. But I don't think FSU comes in and gets humbled. They may not win right away, especially when you got like Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Washington, USC. But I think Florida State's competitive with that. I don't see why not. I mean, that's one of the reasons for getting them is for access down into there for all that recruiting. I mean, Florida State's got one of the biggest stud teams that you're going to find in college football, period. It's just they may actually have too many.
Yeah, in Texas, I mean, Sark has really turned that program around. I mean,
They might
they're
win
in the
next year.
playoffs. Yeah, they might win the national.
They might win the SEC next year.
This year. They might win a natty this year.
They beat Alabama, and Alabama beat Georgia. So why are we thinking that they couldn't win it next year?
And they beat Alabama at Alabama by double digits.
By considerable amount. So I don't. I'm not pooing on Texas when it comes to going in. I would have thought the same thing before this season, and then this season happened.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning down there, because I believe Quinn Ewers is coming back next year. Does Arch Manning choose to sit another year, or does he transfer out of there? Here's a great question.
Man. Like you got to think that there's a team that would play him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Arch Manning could basically name his team at this point if he had the portal.
What do we got here?
So this is for you, and I know you love talking about this legal stuff.
Oh God, some of this stuff blows my mind. Like I try, and I follow lawyers and things on Twitter who talk about this sports law and NIL. But I got to tell you guys, man, this stuff is starting to boil my brain a little bit.
With the court's ruling in favor, I'll read it out here for the chat. They're basically ruling in the Pac-2's favor. What will be their next few actions in the near future, and where do you see these two schools in the future?
I think right now they're having to do kind of what Notre Dame is doing. Kind of. They're having to kind of plow two paths, so to speak. You got to prepare two ways, even though in the end you're only going to be able to go one way. You got to prepare as if you are going to have to do your thing with the Mountain West, but leave yourself open in case something else, makes itself available. I don't know. I don't know what the final plan is for the Big 12. I have told just on a recent show today that I don't think that they would go with Oregon State and Washington State before whatever happens with the ACC. You want to leave yourself with as much space as possible, room as possible for those negotiations, for whatever deal making might need to be done. But after that, I mean, the actual numbers on Oregon State and Washington State are not bad. They're much higher than I would have ever thought before the season when we actually started to look at them. So I think that they've gotten a bunch of people who are now kind of pulling for them after what's going on. So we'll see.
Why don't you go ahead and plug that show that you were on earlier today so people can go take a watch out?
Well, it's show. You can't find it yet. I just filmed tonight with Locked On Big 12. So he'll be putting those up, I think, tomorrow.
Okay.
Hopefully. We'll see. So, yeah, we talked for a little bit.
Check out Locked On Big 12 tomorrow for some more immaculate goodness. Let me take care of some business here at the top of the hour. We've got 48 people on the stream watching us right now. If you guys you enjoy the content, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I know there's probably a lot of Big 12 people right now hitting thumbs down because I brought up Kansas. Also, give us a subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. You can do those things for free. They don't cost you a dime. They mean the world to us, help us out so much. Also consider becoming a member. Currently, members get preferred selection in the chat, and we're building a members only section that'll have some neat polls and options, and I guess we're going to do a dress your Moen day where you guys get to pick the costume for the day. We're still going to take suggestions on that. I don't think I can pull off the Charo. I've just got way too much body hair, and there's no way I can wax it, guys. So the Charo Moen is out, but consider becoming a member. And as always, we read all super chats. Super chats jump to the front of the line. Yeah.
I think Raider was talking about the Clemson pick.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we differ in terms of Clemson and whether or not they'd be worth grabbing for the Big Ten. I think if the Big 12 is to play along and help make all of this happen in a much easier pattern, which means enough schools leaving the ACC to strong arm, shall we say, I think they're going to want something that brings quite a bit of value. And if the Big Ten and the SEC aren't real hot on them, then they'll probably be like, yeah, that's fine. So you could be right, though. I mean, there's considerable value in Clemson to the networks, and I wouldn't take them with Florida State alone, but maybe with Georgia Tech, it works.
Yeah, Clemson's going to have to make some guarantees on their academic situation.
Yeah, that's it's tough to do, especially in how things are going right now. In the world, recession wise, like making growth and expansion when when competition's getting tougher.
Right. So they're going to have to reach out to their boosters and tell them we need a hospital. Stat. On the point of the four corners coming in, I'll bet if Deion Sanders bitched, the Big 12 schools might get another deal. I don't see, he can complain all he wants. I don't think that they're just going to renegotiate the Big 12 deal they just signed.
I don't know how a coach comes in and makes the media decide to give that much more to every school. Like that's a big deal. Like Deion, I was saying that I'm pretty sure he was directly involved in getting Colorado to make the Big 12 choice. But when you're talking about getting the networks to give out a certain amount of money, that might be getting a little too big for his britches. And he's a very formidable man on his own, but that might be just a little too much for a head coach to do.
Peyton's dad brings up a great point. Tallahassee is only 4 hours away from Atlanta. Clemson is only 2 hours away. So perfect travel partners right there. All of them can make a bus trip to the Atlanta airport and basically hit wherever you need to hit.
But if you got Georgia Tech, you can see downtown Atlanta from the stadium. So I don't know,
Great shot from the Goodyear blimp.
Yeah.
Raider Vision, remember, Texas has been getting it way in the Big 12 forever. They always got their way. The whining is not on the field. It is getting their way with everything. And then Mike Smith also did a follow-up to clarify. He was not talking about winning or losing with FSU in Texas. He's talking about a team like Texas being used to ruling the roost behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. They've definitely given that up. That's Alabama's role.
That's true. You got to talk to Paul about that.
The headquarters is in their state. Like,
yeah, in the Big Ten, that doesn't play. We're all equals.
Yeah,
some are more equal than others.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll go with that.
Can we swap out? Oh, look at this. They want to get rid of Arizona State and get Oregon State or Washington State instead of the Big 12.
We'll take Arizona State off your hands. Just got to get that Arizona State-Arizona game figured out. But if you're going to give us Phoenix, I'll take it. Of course, I live here, so I'm biased.
He just wants to see an Iowa game.
Yeah, I want Iowa to come here and play in November. You kidding me? Great.
Caden's dad, next big contract, he brings it up. Arizona State, Phoenix Market, group with the West schools.
The Big Ten has their meetings here in Scottsdale. They love it here. There's a lot of donors, Big Ten donors, big money people that have like second or third homes here. You go into a lot of the big neighborhoods with the big homes, and you'll notice they don't always have a lot of traffic in them at all times of the year. It's kind of what we call snowbirds and people who are only here for a few months at a time. And there's a lot of that here. So I would not be surprised, not just from my own personal bias, if Arizona State and the Phoenix market here ended up in the Big Ten someday. They are AAU. And as someone says, hockey as well.
Yeah. Hockey team. They're club hockey right now, right?
Oh, no. They just joined one of the leagues. They're in a full on that's a full thing there, and they're pretty good. which it kind of blows my mind here, but it's because there's so many Canadians here, and there's so many people from the north here that they actually get a lot of people to come in and watch those games.
I learned something new today. I did not know that
Phoenix is not what
Arizona is
people
filled
think.
with Canadians.
There's a lot of Canadians that come down here. It is that's how we have an NFL hockey team. Unfortunately, they put it on the wrong side of the valley.
Raider Vision is not going to give me a thumbs down for my opinion. You're going to be
That's
one of the
nice.
few.
It's
One
nice.
of the few. Some people give me the thumbs up. Some people give me the thumbs down. Most of them just give me a finger. Movie Time Blues got in late. So what's the sense at Big Ten headquarters? We'll wait. I guess we're waiting to see what Florida State and Clemson do.
Yeah,
And then what UNC does and UVA does.
Yeah, best signal of that is what you see coming out of those schools here in the future. If I think anything coming out of Florida State at this point in time is also kind of a signal towards what the Big Ten thinks. I don't think they want the SEC anymore. It's just I think that bridge is burned.
Mr. Monkey says, somebody in Big 12 Mafia chat asked a great question one day. How did the committee decide FSU is not as good as Alabama, but is better than Ohio State? By the way, Ohio State lost by 3 to number 1 Michigan at Michigan. I think we actually lost by 6. Not that I'm keeping score, but yeah, Florida State is better than Ohio State was.
Well, they would come back and say that Alabama is a conference champion.
Yeah.
That's what they'd tell you. I mean, we all know what best means. It means best for business. But that's what they would tell you as their explanation, and then tell you to kindly fuck off if you don't like their explanation.
Raider Vision. Well, the Big 12 is the truck stop conference. I hated that analogy. I just
there's quite a bit of condescension to that, and a lot of people learn that there's a lot more involved with just how good your school is in terms of what your TV deal is going to be, and there's a lot of lessons learned in that, and hopefully some folks have taken a little pill from that and gotten their egos in check a little bit.
Cleveland rocks. I hate driving through Atlanta on Route 75. It's a clusterfuck. You could just put it in. I hate driving through Atlanta. It is, if nobody has had the joy of trying to manipulate traffic around Atlanta, Georgia, I feel sorry for you. I used to have to fly down there and visit Dalton, Georgia every few months, and yeah, not fun. Not a fun trip.
Actually, I did drive through there one time a while back, but I don't get over to Atlanta too much. Phoenix is enough for me.
Mm-hmm. It is. People in Atlanta don't know how to drive.
Phoenix is just a clusterfuck of everyone's bad drivers. Like from everywhere around the country, they come here and they all drive bad, and they all have different bad driving habits, and it just gets a little wild here.
Yeah, it was a little bit of sleet on the road in Georgia, and people just abandoned their vehicles.
We get a little bit of rain here, and people are like, "Oh no, can't handle this." Like, no, your tires are literally made to handle the rain. You'll be okay.
Tony Lawson brings up Clemson academic ranking, Wall Street Journal 76, U.S. News number 86. And I wonder what the lowest Big Ten school would probably be. It would have to be Oregon or Nebraska.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, academic rating is great, but it's honestly, if something is to get you in, it's not just that. Otherwise, they're inviting Emory out of Atlanta, and they actually have research too, but it is more research than it is your academics. Oregon got in because the networks wanted them because their numbers were proven. Oregon was smart. They, for years now, have been scheduling neutral site games in other markets a ways away. So the networks knew what their numbers would be with them playing in Eastern and Central time zone cities. So it was very smart. I mean, I don't know if people realize that. I didn't realize at the time what they're doing, but I do believe it helped them out a lot now. And they had a leg up, and the networks were like, we want something that we know will give us those numbers. So Clemson, though, this year, their numbers went down when they were down. So that's not a good look.
Caden's dad brings this up. This is a good point, too. Clemson is big in Charlotte. Clemson 2 hours from Atlanta and 2 hours from Charlotte. Yeah, if you miss out on the North Carolina schools, Clemson is an alternative.
That's probably the best argument that I've seen so far for adding them, because Charlotte is literally like right on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. It's basically the capital of Carolina as a whole. There's really not a city in South Carolina that's more dominant than that.
Cleveland Rocks, another member, Moen. I see Kyle McCord committed to Syracuse. That's right about his skill level. Hey, I wish him luck. We weren't going to pay him. We weren't going to guarantee him a starting spot. Syracuse is going to do both those things. So
that's one of those situations where the portal bites. Like you go into the portal, you think you've got these options. This is going to work out a certain way for you, and in the end, you leave Ohio State and end up at Syracuse.
Yeah, but Syracuse is probably paying him about $2 million. So.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, he's making a bag. He's making a bag.
Then, congratulations.
His dad made sure of that. Everyone goes to Phoenix for the winter month. I've never been.
Oh my God, it's so busy right now because when I'm out doing my thing, and traffic is more out of state plates here in parts of Scottsdale than it is Arizona plates.
Yeah, I would probably go to Vegas.
It's 70 degrees today, 71 degrees.
Yeah.
With sun.
It's raining and miserable here, but
I wore shorts.
I like that. I'm Midwest.
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised miserable. Yeah. I still have, aches to maybe go back someday, but I got to tell you, when it hits the fall, winter, and early spring months here, it's pretty much paradise.
So C. John wants to know, why wouldn't the SEC pick up Clemson? Seems like a good home. It does. It seems like it on the outside looking in, but if you have to take both Carolina schools and both Virginia schools, do you go to 21 if you're the SEC? Do they play that blackjack model?
I mean, it doesn't add for them. Like everything that we're talking about what they would possibly add for the Big Ten, it doesn't help the SEC. They're already got Georgia. They already got Florida. Florida's Gainesville. That's, that's kind of up there northeast part of Florida, if you can picture that. I don't think Clemson really gives them much. And when you see that their ratings went down this year, I just can't see it. I don't know why they would. I think that they would rather double up in brand new states, and pay them partial pay. That's getting you north, and plus that blocks the Big Ten. I don't know. I just can't see it. Could be wrong.
Mike Smith, is there any update about Malik Murphy and or who Ohio State might be bringing in, if anyone? We're probably not going to bring in anybody. We're going to roll with Devin Brown. Malik Murphy, we've got a 5-star coming in next year. We don't really want to lose our 5-star recruits by bringing in all these guys with 3 years of eligibility left.
There was some talk about him. Can't remember who they were connecting him to.
Oregon State, I think he was connected to.
There was another one. Yeah, there's been some talk. He's getting around. It's not a bad pickup.
Now, from what I understand, he's very raw, extremely raw. He only had 1 year of high school ball, and then went to Texas and played those 2 games and backup for Quinn Ewers. What'll be interesting, like I said earlier, is if Quinn Ewers is definitely committed to playing next year, Does Arch Manning stay at Texas, or
With
does he
Malik
leave?
Murphy leaving, I think Arch should stay. Take
You
one.
think he should stay, but does he
Yeah.
stay?
Well, reports were that he was only third string. Like he was only
Yeah.
good enough to be third string. So I think one more year with Sark, like if it wasn't Sark and then someone else, you'd have to maybe judge it differently. But I think with Sark and what Sark is good at, I would keep him there. If I was, and remember, this is a Manning, so you got a lot of family talking to you about the long haul, the long run. Don't make bad choices early on. I think he stays. If he knows he's going to be the backup and that Ewers is gone after next year, you stay at Texas. You run that out, you become the quarterback. He's still going to have 2 years of leading them. So I would stay. And if Ewers gets hurt again, then you're the man because he's going to be number 2.
Yeah, and I try to remind people all the time. Ewers learned everything he knows at Ohio State. Stop giving Sarkisian all the credit for it. He picked all that stuff up from Ryan Day.
Sark is a good offensive-minded coach, though.
He's a good coach, but I have yet to see him prove out on a quarterback. Let's see how he does with Arch Manning. That'll be his whole project, his own project. We'll see how well he does there.
One of the things you want as a quarterback, though, is a great offensive line. And I don't know right now where he goes and gets better protected. Like he has plenty of options, but that Texas line is something. And then they're just going to continue to load that up with all the quarterback talent that they have there.
Nathan Campbell says, does the Big 12 add Clemson, Duke, Vanderbilt, Pitt, and
Vanderbilt?
Vanderbilt's a weird one.
I have them in a movement from the SEC, but not to the Big 12, possibly to the ACC later. But no.
Yeah, I don't see Duke going to the Big 12 either.
No, I mean, Clemson, Pitt, Louisville. You're saying Miami.
Miami.
I mean, there's what other options? I mean,
Syracuse.
Maybe Syracuse. I mean, they're all private too, though, so they may want to stick around. But I think the Big 12 will have some options available to them. Like, I know a lot of people are looking at Clemson when we say that, and they're thinking that's an insult, but it's just the opposite. It would be a much different conference if Clemson was to join.
Tony Lawson, Forbes college rankings: 76 Clemson, 133 Oregon, 199 Iowa, 200 Nebraska. The only thing I would bring up is one, if it's on Forbes.com, I wouldn't trust it. Anybody can write for Forbes. I could go on there in 15 minutes and write for Forbes. Second thing is, what are they basing their rankings on? I'd like to see the criteria for that because I have a hard time believing that Iowa is that far behind Clemson.
I'm not quite sure where that's coming from, but
yeah, I just don't know what the criteria is. Duke and Memphis to get them into Tennessee. Well, that's quite a list of names to get them into Tennessee. You only really need Memphis. But yeah, I think we touched on this on the previous answer.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get in everywhere. I don't know if Tennessee's high on their list.
Malik Murphy has visits to Duke and Oregon State planned. He also had one planned to Baylor, but I think he canceled that one. Well, there you go. I had heard the Oregon State.
Maybe it was Duke. I heard. Yeah, I think it was. It's interesting that if that's true at Duke, are they throwing around money now? Like, what are they planning for?
He seems to be intent on his development. He could have went there for the development. If he chooses to go there.
Who's going to be their new coach?
I thought it was somebody taking over from the offensive side of the. Oh, Manny Diaz is going to be the new coach. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Manny Diaz. Kind of a defensive focused situation there. I mean, if he's got a good quarterback, offensive coordinator type coach for him, then maybe.
Let's see.
If he's a smart kid, then maybe just going to Duke itself is enough of a draw.
Malachi Nelson is entering the transfer portal, another 5-star quarterback. Yeah, but is he a proven 5-star quarterback?
Where's he from?
That's the thing. That's a good question. I don't know, Jared Jones. Where's he coming out of? Because I know Ty Thompson coming out of Oregon was also a 5-star quarterback. But these are 5-stars that have really not
I've
played
heard that name.
So
Malachi, is that North Carolina State? No. Malachi, where is that from?
Malachi Nelson struggled at spring ball and had no accuracy.
USC. Does he mean South Carolina? Or is that actually from USC?
I'd imagine if they're saying USC, they mean USC. But I don't know why he would be entering the transfer portal with Caleb Williams leaving.
I saw someone in there say that Caleb might be staying.
There's no way. Well, if Chicago Bears have the first pick, he might he might be leaving, or he might be staying. I couldn't imagine wanting to go to play for the Chicago Bears.
It was not a good. I'm just going to say, I know that people are going to feel differently about it, but it was not a good last look for him. I'm not going to go into the different details and why I wouldn't, despite what some people might think. But he might need to make a better showing of himself in that regard. Not necessarily an on-field performance, but just in how he handles adversity. And because that's a big deal. I mean, if you're going into the NFL as a top 10 pick, you're not going on to a good team. You're going to have to be a leader, and you're going to have to show some ability to lead through adversity. And his sidelines behavior and after-game behavior just did not show that he was mature enough yet for an early draft pick, in my opinion, as a quarterback. So one more year might really help him, and you might be getting told you should do that.
Yeah, and Shonsky makes up a great point that the star rating system means nothing until these guys prove out. There have been way more 5-star busts than there have been 5-star successes.
It's really bad when a certain program all of a sudden schedules you for a visit and your star goes up a point. That's when you know, this isn't exactly the science.
Arbitrary.
Yeah, it's like you're supposed to be the ones telling them how good these guys are, but sometimes it kind of seems like it's the other way around.
Caleb making more money now at USC than he would in the NFL for the first 4 to 5 years on those new rookie contracts.
That money's going to go up in the Big Ten. It just is. Yeah. There's going to be so many more eyeballs on him. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's double or what it would be. It would just be making up something, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was double.
Cleveland Rocks thinks if he's leaving USC, it probably means Will Howard from K-State is sitting there.
I just don't think that. Well, considering who the coach is there, maybe that's what he wants to go with. But I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, that guy's I would take him at Iowa. I don't know if I would take him at USC. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, you would take anybody at Iowa.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's exactly the point. I don't think Cade's knee is going to be good next year.
Yeah. It's amazing to me. You look at the quarterbacks who've proven out in the NFL draft that Ohio State has not had more looks for quarterbacks in the portal. But then again, Ohio State does not pay people in the portal. And that's not going to change. Part of it is you get the opportunity to play at Ohio State and get developed by the best talent development people in the industry.
You don't think at some point in time, though, that seat gets a little bit hotter, that Day won't look at this and go, we might need to bring in something that, has a little sparkle to it?
If they bring in anybody, it's just going to be somebody with some veteran experience. I think they're ready to go with Brown. I think that there was a lot of second guessing throughout the season on Devin Brown versus Kyle McCord. I know Devin Brown had some bad practices, some bad snaps and plays in the earlier games. I think there was still a 50-50 shot that McCord and Brown were going to 50-50 going in there. But I think we'll see what Devin Brown does in the Cotton Bowl. If Devin Brown comes out there and looks good in the Cotton Bowl, I mean, it could be Devin Brown's team. It probably will be Devin Brown's team, actually. Abuka's coming out there to play.
Is he pretty high talent? I don't really know that much about him.
Yeah, he's a former USC commit. He was formerly committed to USC. So Caleb needs to go to the league. Yeah, I agree with you, but he's going to Chicago if he goes anywhere. Good luck. That I'd actually like to see him go to Chicago so they would trade Fields away.
Isn't Fields doing really good though?
He's doing okay, but he's playing in Chicago, so they have no offensive line. I watched some of the game today with the Cleveland Browns, and
yeah, but if your quarterback's doing good and has good stats, and you get rid of him and bring in a brand new rookie, I mean that. Look, it's Chicago, and I grew up 3 hours from there, and their management ownership is always a complete mess. But that just seems like that would be the ultimate dumb move. If you got a quarterback that's doing good, why bring in another quarterback that basically plays the same way, but it's a rookie and has no experience? Hopefully they don't make that move, but
it's Chicago.
It is Chicago.
Justin Fields is coming up on the end of his rookie deal.
He's probably going to want to get out of there.
Yeah, they're going to look to probably reset. I would not be shocked to see them pick a Drake May or a Caleb Williams.
They need to get in. They need to get an experienced quarterback. They need a free agent. I don't think they need to.
They need an offense. They need an offensive line.
Yeah, that's what they need to focus on. They need because and getting that's tough. That's in my opinion, offensive linemen should be drafted in the first round as much or more so than quarterbacks. Finding those guys and finding good ones, that could be difficult.
I don't know. I'm just looking for more Jake Browning magic. That's all I'm looking for. If you didn't catch that catch yesterday from T. Higgins, look that up on Twitter X. I can't put it here because of copyright issues. Daniel Gygax reminds us John Cooper was fired losing a lot of games to Michigan. You're right, but it was several years it took for him to be fired. I believe he was the coach there for 12, 13 years before they did that.
What Ryan Day might have going for him is that it's not just going to be about Ohio State and Michigan in the coming years.
Yeah. That would be nice, but that's not the case. They're going to expect a national championship next year, like they do every year. Yeah, the receivers really like Devin Brown. Devin Brown's got some good mobility, too, so he can open some stuff up. Vikings need a QB. Well, so do the Patriots. Chicago hasn't had a quarterback since McMahon. Actually,
Harbaugh.
Cutler wasn't terrible.
That's why people talk about Harbaugh maybe being their coach. He's still looked at and actually loved in Chicago. And considering who their president is and where he's from, and they had some connection in the Big Ten, I wouldn't be surprised if Harbaugh looked and saw that guy's name on his phone and gave him a call.
Yeah, hey, I'm all for it. And he could take J.J. McCarthy with him, too.
Oh, my God, I hadn't even thought about that. That might be the thing, actually. Hire Harbaugh and bring his quarterback in all at the same time.
But they keep drafting them high and watching them suck because they overdraft due to need. Yes, you're right. It's the same thing with Bryce Young. It's always about the situation, too. Too many quarterback busts are because they go to bad situations.
Yeah, teams should not draft based upon what they need because you push them too quickly in. And then, like Arizona here with Kyler Murray. He looked good until everyone figured out what his shtick was, and then he just started getting creamed.
And that's right after you sign him to that long-term deal with all that guaranteed money.
He had a great rookie season. His second year was okay, and then after that, he was just no bueno.
Chicago should trade down and load up on defense and O-line.
Always O-line.
I agree. Always
O-line. Of course, that's my Iowa view on it, but it's always O-line. O-line should be first, in my opinion. I mean, you can make a mediocre quarterback look great with a great O-line.
What is your thought on Harbaugh? Does he go NFL? I think he does.
50-50. I think part of him wants to say, F you to everyone and stick around. I think it depends upon what happens this year. If he wins, I mean, you know what you're going to be facing in the future. Maybe you go out on that high point. You say you did everything that you came here to do. You got Michigan a title. You go out on top. You get the statue, and you don't have the NCAA come in and cut you down. You go out. McCart or JJ decides to go with. Makes a part of his deal with the Bears. Say you hire my quarterback or you draft my quarterback, and bingo, there you go. I mean, could happen.
Yeah. It's the old Pete Carroll maneuver. He's going to get out while the getting's good, and he will suffer none of the ill effects.
Yep. I mean, it's because it could be coming. Could be coming.
Yeah. No could be about it. It is coming. Our Browns are winning even without 12 starters out for the season. Incredible. Well, you play Chicago, that tends to...
Yeah, that's CJ's team, though, so...
Yeah, Sarkisian tried to recruit Devin Brown to Texas. Yep. He was a former USC recruit as well. So it's not like Devin Brown's not a talented kid.
If they already got someone in the works
He's
for that, that's probably what pushed McCord out. Was not.
Well, he competed with them in the off season. They competed for the starting job.
But with McCord looking, not good, there's no reason not to go to your next guy in line when you're Ohio State and you're always trying to reload anyways. You're not, no one's going to be happy with you if you keep McCord there in first. So you might as well just move on to the next guy.
CJ Stroud is the real deal. He absolutely is.
He surprised everybody.
Yeah, Houston looks like the smartest team in the draft.
What it is with Ohio State, like their quarterbacks come out and seem to do okay, but everyone seems to think that they won't.
We've had some busts.
Yeah,
Art
but
Schleister.
Busts happen when your guys go early in the draft, right? Like they're not going to great teams.
They just extended Harbaugh for 5 years. No, they're trying to extend him. He hasn't signed the deal yet.
He did not sign that, and that's why we're kind of like, he might be moving on because they tried to sign him not just to 5 years, but that like some type of clause in there that he wouldn't leave. Did you see that?
Basically a guarantee that he wouldn't go to the NFL.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like that tells you he's thinking about going to the NFL. But I mean, they know. Like, we're going to give you this huge pile of money, and you're not going to go to the NFL. I mean, you're basically saying if you ever want to go to the NFL, go now.
Daniel Gygax, Rex Grossman got the Bears to the Super Bowl in 2006. That defense got the Bears to the Super Bowl in 2006. Rex Grossman was just there.
So true.
GOP calling to strip university of billions of dollars for anti-Semitism. Your thoughts, boys? That's above our pay grade.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on that's shocking. I will just say that.
If Harbaugh wins, then he is gone. He wants an NFL ring like his brother. Also, he would be one of the few to win a CFB championship and an NFL championship. True enough, but I think even if he doesn't win, he's gone.
I mean, the real thing coming is what's coming at him from the investigation.
Right.
If he wins, I almost think that that's almost a guarantee that he goes. If he doesn't, maybe 50-50. If his quarterback's ready to go and he doesn't feel good about the next one, though, he might just try and strike that deal and get both him and his quarterback at Chicago.
Yeah, we were talking about doing a watch party for the quarterfinal games, semifinal games rather. So, you will be seeing me drinking and rooting on Alabama. Anything to keep them from getting another national championship. At some point, he would win an NFL championship. You would hope so. Houston
He's a good
Texans
coach.
have a bad owner. Well, I'm telling you what, Houston nailed it out of the park with that coaching hire and that draft last season. So
Yeah, what I mean that was some what was that movie with Costner where he was doing the drafting?
oh, draft day.
Yeah, that was some draft day quality work done by the Houston Texans from that draft.
Jay Cutler was the best disinterested QB Chicago has had. He was. I mean, he just
That's
couldn't
like
imagine that guy's O face.
it's like a cannon with no aim.
Yeah. What days will you be on this week and next week with Christmas coming? Well, Utes on vacation. Ute is on vacation. Everything else, we're going to play it by ear. Obviously, we want to be with our families during the holiday season. As much as we love you all and consider you all part of our family, we have real families too that take precedence over this. Jim did lose to John Harbaugh in a Super Bowl. You're absolutely right. He did. Kenneth Evans, Michigan ain't beating Bama. From your lips to God's ears. They have the number 1 and number 2 in Chicago this draft. I don't know if that's the case. They probably could. Michigan is not winning a natty this year. They'll be extremely lucky to even play in the championship game. Well, I think that's a great comment to end it on, Immaculate. What do you think? Immaculate's.
I was responding to Mike. I was typing out something for Smith out there. I don't know, man. That Alabama game is going to be tough. But like I said, I don't think Alabama is as good as everyone says. I just think everyone's got glasses that have a crimson hue to them because everyone says Alabama is that good. People think they're that good. So I think Michigan might win that one. As far as winning, though, I'm leaning Texas.
Okay. You like Texas to win it all, huh?
Kind of been heavy on Texas all year long. You know, good through the bad. I just what I see is a complete team. Lines, defensive line, offensive line, backs, receivers, quarterback, D-backs. They're a complete team. I don't know if there's another one out there. I don't think Washington's a complete team like that. They're an amazing offense. Alabama, they've got thoroughbreds, but I don't think it's really come together all that well. And Michigan is just pound you in your face all game long type of team, but I think Texas can play that with them. So we'll see.
Mike Smith with the comment of the night. Is this about WVU heading to the big due to its higher academic?
You got me. You got me.
Yeah, E. Gordon Gee.
Got me.
It was all part of the plan. The Vince McMahon moment. It was E. Gordon Gee all along. But we will wrap it up. Do you have any final thoughts, Immaculate?
Yeah, just kind of keep tied in with us. I was actually on another show, Locked On, so check that out in the morning when he puts that out. Just a little shout out to Drake. It's always fun talking with him and stirring things up a little bit, shall we say. As far as what we're going to be on in the next couple of weeks, stay tuned. If you see some big news come out, some big things drop, we're probably going to get into it. If it stays pretty quiet, which tends to happen around holidays, you may not see as much. We'll see. We'll play it by ear.
And any thoughts on who the next major sports journalist to block you is?
I'll be honest. Once I saw that, I real quick went and looked at Dellinger. It's like, did he block me too? No, I'm not blocked there. So if I had to pick one, that would be it.
I'm going for Pete Thamel myself, guys. So I'll leave you with this 50 caliber shot glass.
Nice.
There it is. We will be doing a drinking stream coming up. get some business out of the way before we take off here. If you guys would give us a like, a subscribe, those things are free. They help us out the most. Boost us in the algorithm. If you like what you see, consider becoming a member. We've got new member benefits coming around the corner, including a members only section and some cool new features we're going to run there. And we will see you, or I will see you again on Tuesday. I believe that Tuesday, Nate and I are doing a show. I don't know. Are you doing your, you joining us on Tuesday?
Not sure. I might have some work.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm around and you guys want, that's fine. If you guys are doing a 2-person, then I might actually come and just hang out and chat with everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Well, we will see you all on Tuesday, everybody. Have a good evening. Peace out.